What's up, guys? Neil Orfield here, and I'm going to show you how I'll be setting up my fantasy cruncher for the Thursday night football game between the Cowboys and the Titans. I'll be setting up here for the largest field GPP on DraftKings. First thing I'm going to do is make sure my columns are where I want them to be. I have already clicked into my quick view. You can see I've got ownership projections, my projection exposure cap, and then how much I get of players once I've run a crunch, all here in the middle of my screen where I want them to be. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sort by projection and remove every player from my pool who has a projection of 0. So just scrolling down to those players, I'm going to click and drag. All right. So those are out of the way. Now they won't be showing up, muddling things up when I'm making groups later. Next, I'm going to go into the captain tab, and I'm going to set an exposure cap on all captains of 20%. Makes it so that I won't get more than 20% of any player in the captain spot. Now I'm going to go into advanced options. I'll be working in 2 tabs here, the general tab and the groups tab. Starting in the general tab, unique players per lineup, I'm going to leave at 1 unique player per lineup. I'll be setting up here for a 150 set. If you are, making 40 or fewer lineups or so, I would change this to 2 unique players per lineup just for the sake of having more diverse lineups. Salary cap, I'm not going to set a minimum. I will set a maximum. I do that because I want to avoid the most duplicated lineups. If I'm lucky enough to win, I want to win a lot of money. I don't want to be splitting 200 ways and not winning a lot anyway. So I want to make lineups that are only going to win a lot of money if they win. And one of the easiest ways to avoid duplication is to leave some salary on the table. So I'm going to go ahead and leave $1,000 on the table here. The default, you can use up to 50,000 in DraftKings, but the lineups that I'm making will only be using up to 49,000 in salary. Offensive players versus defense, the default is set to a max of 2 players. I'm going to change that to 5 players. So I could theoretically, and this is probably a good game to use this, I could theoretically get 5 players from the Cowboys against just the Titans defense. This seems like as good a game as any to have that setting. I'm still probably not going to run into it a ton, but I want to at least have that option available because it's possible the Titans are going to struggle offensively in this game. Cap on exposure, I'm going to leave at 100%. I already changed the exposure cap on the captain spot specifically. And then randomness, I've already got randomness turned on here. I'm going to turn it on to 30%. I think that's a good number to start with. If you want a little bit more control over your lineups, set this number a bit lower. I know some people use 0% randomness because they want complete control over their lineups. So if you want complete control, you could change this. You could turn off your randomness entirely, but I'm going to use 30%. Minimum projection included in calculation, the default is set to 3. I'm going to leave that at 3. If there's a player who I want in my player pool who projects for fewer than 3 fantasy points, I'm just going to manually boost their projection to make sure it's above 3 fantasy points. And then finally, players from each team max, I'm going to leave at 5. So again, I can have 5 players from one team against just 1 player of the opposing team. All right, next I'm going to go into groups and make some groups around these quarterbacks. And the first group I'm going to make is a Dak Prescott captain group. Make him my key player. I'm going to sort by position. I'm just going to add every Cowboys pass catcher to the secondary group here. And I've explained this in many videos, but in case you haven't watched those, the reason I do this, the reason I think the most important groups revolve around the quarterbacks is because of the way things are scored on DraftKings on every passing play. The quarterback is outscored by the receiver. I think I just added somebody who's not a Cowboy. I'll have to go back and check. So because of that, oh no, I didn't. Okay, great. Because of that dynamic, it's important that if you have, say, Dak Prescott in the captain spot, because Dak Prescott is not, an elite rusher like a Lamar Jackson type, Dak Prescott is pretty unlikely to be optimal in the captain spot without any Dallas pass catchers being in the flex because, Dak Prescott's probably not going to rush for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. If he's in the captain spot, he's probably throwing a good amount. throw him for some touchdowns, and most likely at least one of his pass catchers is going to be in the flex. Dak Prescott, I'd say, is kind of middling as far as being a runner goes. He, averages more than 10 yards per game. I think his most recent game, he actually had over 40 yards, but that's a fairly rare thing for Dak. But we know that he has at least that upside. He can spike, the 40-yard game, and then of course he can always score a touchdown. So he has some rushing upside, but still not enough that I want to play him in the captain spot by himself. I think that I'm going to keep the rules here as they are, which say if any key player used, so that's Dak Prescott in the captain spot, then use at least one player from this group. And that means this group here. So I'm requiring at least one pass catcher that I added to this group in every lineup where I have Dak Prescott at captain. I'm also going to make it more likely that I get to multiple pass catchers from this group when I have Dak Prescott at captain by giving boost to those pass catchers here. Guys, we've got a great offer for you from BetMGM. You'll get 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum when you sign up, deposit, and bet at least $10. That's every tool on the site for every sport other than Fantasy Cruncher, a $240 value. All you need to do is click the link in the description or in chat, follow the steps, and deposit $10 or more, and place a bet of $10 or more on whatever you want. And when that bet settles, MGM will hit you up with how to get your free subscription to Stokastic. You don't even need to win the bet. On top of all that, you also get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That means if you win the bet, you win the bet. If you lose the bet, you still get your $1,000 back in free bets. It's legit free money and a free subscription to the best DFS tools out there. Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on and can be added to your Stokastic subscription after the fact. Reminder, make sure you use the link or we won't be able to track you. And 12% is kind of my default. Trial and error from there, but 12% I found to be a pretty good starting place for giving these boosts. And typically running backs, I gave a little bit lesser boosts. I think that I'm going to include both Zeke and Pollard in this group. I think there's a pretty good chance that Pollard doesn't play tomorrow. I'm making this video on Wednesday night. It's kind of unclear right now whether Pollard's going to play. If he does play, Pollard clearly the better pass catching back of the two. So maybe I'd give him a little bit of a bigger boost than Zeke. Maybe give Zeke just a 4% boost. I don't even know if I want to give Zeke any kind of boost, especially if he is the starter. Now, I'll give him a 4% boost, and then Malik Davis as well. It's going to change things up a lot if Pollard is out, because then Malik Davis will come into play. Zeke will probably look like it'll be a smash spot for Zeke. So things are going to change depending on Pollard's status tomorrow. We might not know until an hour and a half before the game, but I'm going to include them both here anyway. I always do. If a player's questionable, I include them in the group, and then of course, if they end up out, they're just going to have a projection of 0. It's not going to hurt to have them in this group anyway, so not a huge concern. So yeah, this group just says if I have Dak Prescott at captain, require at least one player, and then I give boost, make it more likely I have multiple, because generally Dak Prescott not being a great rusher, if he's the optimal captain, it's because he's thrown multiple touchdowns to multiple different players. Because if he throws too many to one pass catcher, that pass catcher is likely to outscore him, and then they'd be more likely to be optimal instead of Dak. So this is going to be the first group. I'm going to name it Dak captain. All right, then I'm going to make a Malik Willis captain group. So I'm going to find Malik Willis in the captain spot, make him my key player. And then I'm going to find all of these Titans pass catchers, add them to the secondary group. I'm going to add Hassan Haskins. I don't think I'm going to add Julius Chestnut, just based on what I could find about Julius Chestnut. Not much of a pass catcher, whereas Hassan Haskins, a very capable pass catcher. I don't know anything about Jonathan Ward. I'm including him here for now. All right, so what you want to do with this Malik Willis group is only apply plus minus adjustments and then give negative 100% boost to all of the pass catchers. That way you won't get any Malik Willis captain groups. No, that's a joke. Malik Willis is I am going to keep this button checked. That part is not a joke. If you have Malik Willis in the captain spot, He is a very capable runner. He has started 3 games in his NFL career. 2 of them, he's rushed for more than 40 yards. He could certainly spike even more of an upside than that. He has yet to reach 100 yards throwing in a game, so that's not very positive. I was half joking, I should say, when I said you don't want any Malik Willis captain groups. I don't know that I'm going to want too many of them. He has not been does not seem to be a very capable NFL quarterback in his rookie year. Of course, he's young, could evolve every game, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to only apply plus minus adjustments, and I am going to then give the boost, same as I usually would. If he projects well enough that these lineups come up, then so be it. I wouldn't mind having some. You never know. He's a rookie. He could get better throughout the season. This could be his best game yet. Again, I think I'm going to give lesser boost to the running backs. I'll leave it just like that. So I think, it's possible for Malik Willis. He's never rushed for more than 40 some yards, but I don't think that it's, out of the realm of possibility that he could rush for 100 yards and a touchdown. Maybe they change the game plan a little bit to, take advantage of his strengths. You never know. So I think that I'm going to leave it like this. I'm going to say not requiring any pass catcher when I have Malik Willis at captain, but I do want to give boost to his pass catchers. All right, next I'm going to make a Dak flex group. I'm going to find Dak in the flex, make him my key player, and then again, add all of these Cowboys pass catchers to the secondary group. Again, including the running backs. And now I'm also, because I've got Dak in the flex, I can also add all of these pass catchers in the captain spots. Okay, looks good. And I think with Dak, I'm just going to leave it just like this. I'm just going to say, if I've got Dak in the flex, I want at least one pass catcher from the Cowboys somewhere else in the lineup. Again, it's possible that Dak could rush for 40 yards again and throw in a touchdown. And maybe he could be optimal in the flex without bringing along any pass catchers. But I think it's more likely that if Dak is optimal in the flex, he's going to bring along at least one pass catcher from the Cowboys. So I think I'm going to leave this group just like this. And I'm actually not going to make a group for Malik Willis in the flex at all, because I think it's possible that Malik Willis picks up, 40 yards and a touchdown on the ground. He has 10 points on the ground, and other than that, throws for 75 yards, and that's all he does in the game. And he has 13 fantasy points, and nobody else on the Titans does anything. So I think it's very possible for Malik Willis to be optimal in the flex without bringing along any pass catchers. And I'm just not going to make any group. I'm just going to allow for that to happen if he projects well enough, and I'm going to leave it at that. And then I'm going to crunch out lineups using my projections and see what they look like. All right, so first lineup you see, Dak with CeeDee Lamb and Zeke. Looks good to me. I'd rather typically, there's better correlation with Pollard than Zeke with Zach, because Zeke is not as involved in the passing game, but certainly still somewhat involved. So I don't mind that. Here we've got Dak with both running backs and Malik Willis with Hassan Haskins. Hassan Haskins is a capable pass catching back, so I think that is totally fine. I think both of these ones look fine to me. Here we've got Dak again with Pollard, Lamb, and then defense and kicker for the Cowboys, plus Hassan Haskins on the run back. I don't mind that at all. As you can see, I'm getting to a whole lot of Hassan Haskins, he is just 3,000, projects for 11 fantasy points. Not a huge surprise that I'm getting to a lot of Haskins. All right, here we've got CeeDee Lamb with Dak, Zeke. Yeah, all of these look like they are projecting well enough for me. Not getting into anything too weird. I think I want to look at the quarterback captain lineup specifically to see what they look like. Okay, so I only got to one Malik Willis captain lineup. And you can see I just got Malik Willis with Hassan Haskins. That's interesting. He projects really poorly for a quarterback. Not very often you see that. And then my Dak captain lineups. I should have at least one pass catcher from the Cowboys in each of them. And again, I prefer having multiple. So here we've got multiple. Here we've got multiple. Here we've got just one. I like that it's CeeDee Lamb. If it's going to be just one, that's a good one to have there. Dak with CeeDee and Zeke. CeeDee Pollard. CeeDee Pollard. CeeDee Gallup. Yep, I think I'm liking the way these are looking for the most part. But again, there are two things that I'm really looking at now. So I'm looking at the lineups themselves, making sure they correlate, they make sense to me. And then the other thing that I look at is the player exposures. And I just go through position by position, look at every player, and decide, am I getting as much of that player as I want? You can see at quarterback, I'm only getting to 7% Malik Willis. I only had one Malik Willis in the captain spot. That might be fine. I think that I might want a little bit more than that of Malik Willis just because he does have that rushing upside. I could see him spiking upside on the ground. So I'm going to try and get a little bit more. Pollard and Zeke getting to 40% of each. That's probably fine if they're both playing. All right. Hassan Haskins, as you can see, getting to a lot. Might be okay, but I'm going to see. I might not be getting to any of these receivers from the Titans. And I don't know that I want that. Even though Malik Willis might not be great, it doesn't take all that much, especially on DraftKings where it's full point per reception. Wouldn't be that shocking to see, Robert Woods get 6 catches for 50 yards. And it's not a great game, but that's enough from a PPR standpoint that he might do pretty well. So I think I'm gonna leave all of these guys just as they are. Of course, Malik Davis will become very interesting if Tony Pollard is out tomorrow, but for now we just don't know that. So I'm going to build now as though Pollard is in and just use these 4 running backs. But again, tomorrow maybe I'm gonna. Who knows what's gonna happen with Pollard? Actually, even if Pollard is officially active, I think there's some chance he doesn't play a lot, and we do see more Malik Davis anyway. Cowboys don't have a ton to play for, so maybe I'm going to change my mind there. I'm just going to get him to a 3 projection, get him in the player pool, and I'll leave it at that. All right, wide receivers getting to a lot of CeeDee Lamb, 68%, not getting to much Michael Gallup at all, not getting to a ton of Noah Brown, and then, not getting to any Treylon Burks, a little bit of Robert Woods, a little bit of Westbrook, not a ton there. And then these guys not in the player pool. So just looking at this, and again, I've said this in other videos, I should reiterate, I'm not making my final decisions here. I'm showing you my general process. So if I say here, I think I might want more Treylon Burks in my lineups, that's not actually a decision that I'm making right now. What I'm saying is I might make this decision after I've done a little bit more research. I think that I'm probably going to want more than one Treylon Burks lineup in my set. So this is what I would do if that is the decision that I make, which I probably will tomorrow. I'm probably going to want 68% CeeDee Lamb might be fine. Maybe I'll leave that. Also, as I adjust other players, I'm probably going to get a little bit less. But Michael Gallup. So currently I'm getting 8% Michael Gallup. It's a great matchup with the Titans. I'm guessing I'm going to want more than 8% Michael Gallup. So I'm going to just give him a projection boost. I do this incrementally. Usually I do it, like 0.2 or 0.4 boosts at a time until I get to the amount that I like of different players. Noah Brown, currently getting 13%. Probably okay with that number. Treylon Burks, I only have one Treylon Burks lineup here. I think I'm going to give him a little bit of a boost. And I'm going to actually sort by salary here. So you can see Treylon Burks more expensive than Noah Brown. If I want, a similar like 13% or so, if I want, a similar amount of Treylon Burks than Noah Brown, Probably need to give Treylon Burks a slightly better projection. Doesn't work exactly like that because there are correlations involved. You need one player from each team. But in general, if I want Treylon Burks, if I want more Treylon Burks than Noah Brown, I'll need to give him a slightly higher projection. So maybe I'll give 7.2. Robert Woods currently getting 12%. Maybe I want something similar to that, maybe a little bit more. Nick Westbrook not getting too much at all. Give him a little bit of a boost. And then T.Y. Hilton. Who knows what's going on with T.Y. Hilton? They're talking as though they're going to get him involved. Whether we should buy it, I don't really know. But 6% ownership, that might be fine. Maybe I'll want to get a little bit of T.Y. Hilton. Give him a little bit of a boost. Chris Conley, get him in the player pool. Racy McMath. Sure, get him in the player pool. I'm going to leave out the rest of these guys for now. Guys, we've got a great offer for you from BetMGM. You'll get 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum when you sign up, deposit, and bet at least $10. That's every tool on the site for every sport other than Fantasy Cruncher, a $240 value. All you need to do is click the link in the description or in chat, follow the steps, and deposit $10 or more, and place a bet of $10 or more on whatever you want. And when that bet settles, MGM will hit you up with how to get your free subscription to Stokastic. You don't even need to win the bet. On top of all that, you also get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That means if you win the bet, you win the bet. If you lose the bet, you still get your $1,000 back in free bets. It's legit free money and a free subscription to the best DFS tools out there. Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on and can be added to your Stokastic subscription after the fact. Reminder, make sure you use the link or we won't be able to track you. At tight end, getting to 15%, Dalton Schultz. Yeah, maybe I want a little bit more of Dalton Schultz. Chigakonkwu currently getting to 8.7%. Maybe I'll want a little bit more there. Austin Hooper. Sometimes for these young quarterbacks, tight end can be a little bit of a safety valve. So maybe I like these guys a little bit more. Nick Ferguson, maybe I'll get him into the player pool. Jeff Swaim, too. I'll leave it at that for now. And then I'll go to kickers. Yes, I'm getting to a lot of Brett Maher, not getting too much Randy Bullock at all. I'm going to change that, get a little bit more Bullock here. And then defenses, that's a lot of Cowboys. 69%, that's pretty nice for the Cowboys defense. They are 5,800, very expensive. It kind of makes sense with, both Tannehill and Derrick Henry out, but that is a lot. That's probably more than I want, but I'm not going to change their projection just yet. Generally, my process involves I start by giving positive boosts to players I want more of. Other players that I don't give positive boost to, it's essentially like giving them a negative boost because all projections are correlated. They're all every projection affects every other projection. It's all relative when you're working on projections. So I typically start by not giving any kind of negative boosts in the first couple runs, and then finally I will if I still am getting too much of the Cowboys defense. All right, so now I might have done that wrong. Let me see. I think I might have chosen the wrong one here, in which case we'll see what happens. All right, I'm going to crunch it out again. All right, so I think the last crunch that I did, I was not using my projections. I was using Fantasy Cruncher projections. I clicked the wrong one. So I may have just made some more drastic changes than I wanted to, but let's see what they look like. 25% Cowboys defense, that looks a little bit more reasonable. Still only getting 5% of the Titans defense. Maybe I'd give the Titans defense a little bit of a bigger boost. Kickers, 39% Brett Maher, 9% Randy Bullock. Maybe I want a little bit more Bullock. Tight ends, now I'm getting to 45% Dalton Schultz. Probably don't want that much. Who knows? Maybe I will. But still getting 1%. Chigakonkwu, I'll give him a little bit more of a boost. Austin Hooper, give him a little bit more. Jake Ferguson, I don't know how much I really want of Jake Ferguson, but give him a little bit of a boost. Jeff Swaim as well. All right. Wide receivers, okay, I can see him. Still getting 60% CeeDee Lamb. Maybe that's fine. Still getting only 6% Michael Gallup. I might want more than that. I'll give him a bigger boost here. Treylon Burks, give him a boost. Noah Brown. So now I'm down to 5% Noah Brown. Maybe I want more than that of Noah Brown as well. I can give him a projection of 8. You can see I'm projecting him for fewer fantasy points than Treylon Burks. He's less expensive than Treylon Burks. We'll see. They should be relatively close there. Robert Woods, maybe want a little more Woods there. Westbrook Akine. Not into any T.Y. Hilton just yet. This part, again, it's all kind of trial and error. I make little adjustments, generally going bit by bit until I get amounts that I like. Give a little bigger boost to Malik Davis. The rest of these guys, I think I'll leave where they are for now. And you can see, so I adjusted Malik Willis's projection from 13.33 to 14.2, and I got 56%. That might be more than I want, so maybe I'll give him a little bit of a smaller boost. I'll crunch out again. Okay, so you can see here now that I'm using my projections when I'm doing the crunches, I'm getting to Hassan Haskins 77%. 96% of my lineups right now have Hassan Haskins. Maybe that's okay. He projects really well, point per dollar. I don't know that I really want quite that much Hassan Haskins, though. So, again, two things I'm looking at. Lineups themselves. Okay, start at the top. Dak in the captain spot. CD looks good. Just the two of them. You know, that's Dak has enough rushing upside. Maybe that's fine. And then they've got Willis and Haskins in the flex. Looks good. Haskins in the captain with Willis. Prescott with Lamb, Pollard, everything looks good there. Malik Willis in the captain. Again, I didn't require any pass catchers when I have Malik Willis in the captain spot just because he has so much rushing upside, but I don't mind having Hassan Haskins there. He's a very capable pass catching back. I think that's some positive correlation. In general, not having any issue with the lineups themselves here. And then the other thing I check, once again, I go back position by position, still getting probably more Malik Willis than I want. Bring that down just a bit. Probably getting more Hassan Haskins than I want. And now that I've done a couple crunches, now maybe I start to think about, okay, I'm still getting too much of these guys. Maybe I start lowering their projections a bit as well as I go. Maybe I want more Malik Davis, bring him up a bit. Still not getting any Nick Westbrook, bring him up. Robert Woods, bring him up to 8. Bring Noah Brown up. Everybody just a little bit. See what happens there. Again, I think this is probably going to be my last crunch here. I'm not going to keep doing this. Just trying to show you again just my general process. Maybe I want more Chig, Hooper, Ferguson. Still getting to a lot of Maher. Starting to get more Bullock. All right, so now I'm getting a lot less of the Cowboys defense than I was previously. 20% seems a bit more reasonable. Maybe I want more Titans as well. And then I crunch again. And I just do this over and over until I get to lineups that I like, both looking at the lineups themselves, making sure they correlate well, and the exposures until I get to, exposure levels that I like for every player. And that's kind of my entire process. That's all I'm doing. I'm looking at the lineups, seeing if they correlate well enough. If they don't, I go back into advanced options groups. And this is where you set up the correlations in your lineups, is just in the groups, and there's a lot of different ways to use the group settings. Typically, the only groups I make revolve around the quarterbacks. There are plenty of groups that you can make. You can make a group that says, if I have a Cowboys receiver in the captain spot, I don't want more than one Cowboys receiver in the flex. Things like that you can do with your groups. I typically don't bother. I only make groups revolving around the quarterbacks, but that is something you could do if you want to correlate things a little bit better. And then I just look through at individual players. Am I getting to exposure levels that I like? And I adjust the projections bit by bit until I get to exposure levels that I like. That's my entire process. But again, I'm not going to go through all of it now. I'm not going to go through all those crunches. Take all night. I'm going to do my final crunches tomorrow after inactives come out. Anyway, hope you can find some success tomorrow night using this or a similar process. Good luck.